What is going on, everybody? Big welcome to the new followers. We're up over 340 now. We just crossed the 200 mark last week, so a huge thank you to John Riggs for featuring us in one of his latest videos. John's a good friend of the channel and has done a lot to help us out, and he just continues to give and give and give, so if you guys are not subscribed to his channel, please do so. Since there's a lot of new people here, I wanted to give you guys a bit of a background on me and tell you about some of my favorite games, just so you can get a better understanding of what the channel is. So real quick, my name is Jay. I am 41 years old. I've been playing video games since I was 5 years old, so that is, if I'm doing the math, at least 4 or 5 years I've been playing video games, which is pretty exciting because I do love them so much. I started on the ColecoVision. That was my first console, although the NES was really my introduction to what gaming is. I worked in the industry for almost 7 years. I was a QA supervisor at Electronic Arts, working on games like Tiger Woods, Mirror's Edge, Henry Hatsworth and the Puzzling Adventure, NASCAR Thunder. Lots of games. Lots of games were worked on by me. Lots of titles under my name. I don't miss working in the industry. I enjoy games far much more now that I don't work in it. I still work in QA, I just don't work in games anymore, so I have a hand on software, so I understand development process a little bit, but that doesn't change the fact that I love games. I love to play games. I think games are good, and I am pretty sure you do too, and that's why you're here. Today though, guys, I want to give you a quick background on me. One of the new viewers actually asked me a question about what my favorite retro game is that I go back to constantly. And that got me thinking, I was like, I haven't really talked about that yet. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go over several genres on the NES and give you what my favorite games are from each of those. Probably 2 or 3 for each genre, as well as what my ultimate favorite is. So maybe we'll do a top 3 per genre. I don't know yet. We're flying by the seat of our pants on this video. I hope you guys stick around. Let's take a look. As a lifelong gamer and a lifelong sports fan, games about my favorite athletic competitions were huge to me, and they continue to be huge to me. But on the NES, Blades of Steel is my numero uno. Hockey is my absolute favorite sport, and getting a fairly faithful representation of it on the NES was a treat. Game plays incredibly well for a game that doesn't incorporate penalties, offsides, or honestly, the majority of rules from organized hockey, but it just works. It's showing its age, I won't lie to you, but the core is there. Character sprites look incredible, there's multiple teams to choose from and work with, and there's a distinct sense of accomplishment when you finally score a goal. Alright, let's just get this out of the way right off. Punch-Out is perfect. The game is 33 years old and still looks amazing, with some of the best character sprite work from the 8-bit era. Each opponent requires a different strategy, and each has their own unique personality that will trash-talk you frequently in between rounds. I've beaten Tyson precisely 1 time in my life, and to this day, it ranks as one of the single greatest accomplishments of my gaming history. And while everyone loves this game, and rightfully so, I don't think the music in the game gets enough of a call-out. Each boxer has their own unique walkout music, just like in real life, and the music that plays both during a match and during the training montage is fantastic. Oh man, I waffled a lot between Baseball Stars and Baseball Simulator 1000, but ultimately it comes down to which one I feel has the most staying power. Baseball Stars from SNK takes the basis of what made baseball games great on the NES. Let's face it, they all kind of played the same, but it adds its own spin on things. You can create teams, there's an all-women's team, which is really cool, and you can play an entire season. It's easy to look back at a game like this when games like MLB The Show are so incredibly full-featured, but this was mind-blowing for the time it was released, and it's still a ton of fun to play to this day. Action games were part and parcel on what made the NES so great. There were tons of fantastic games like Metroid, Shatterhand, and Power Blade, but games like Batman really blew me away. This game does so much with so little. Batman looks a little wonky in Purple and Teal, let's be honest. The enemies are pretty generic, and none of it really matches up with the movie it was based on, but somehow all of it works. There's gadgets galore for Batman to use, the enemies are tough, but not too tough, and the music is wonderful. Batman is a rare case where a licensed game really tips the scales to greatness. There was a particular Christmas where my mom somehow just found, like, stacks of NES games on sale, I think. I must have gotten 20 of them that year. But the one that stood head and shoulders above all of them was Blaster Master. One part side-scrolling open-world shooter and one part isometric exploring shooter, Blaster Master is a study in smart design. The game doesn't try to do more than it should. You drive Sophia the tank and shoot bad guys, but then you can hop out and enter caves or swim around where the tank can't go. It's one of the most pure examples of NES hard, but it's so damn fun to play. And the sequels on the Switch are worth checking out as well. If you've watched my Konami tier ranking video, you know that I think this is the best of the bunch from the NES Castlevania games, despite being a huge fan of Simon's Quest first. But let's be honest, Castlevania III is nearly perfect. Branching paths, gorgeous visuals, incredible music, and multiple characters to play as make this game the total package. And it's a delightfully balanced game. It's difficult, sure, but it's not scream into a pillow hard like the first Castlevania, nor is it too easy to enjoy the challenge of the title. Simon's Quest might have made me like the Castlevania universe, but Dracula's Curse made me love it. When I hear the phrase adventure games, two bells ring in my mind. One is a game like Monkey Island, where I actively dig into the world, meticulously devouring the scenery, and then there's ones like the Battle of Olympus, where the dialogue and exploration are key. As a lover of all things Greek mythology, this game sang to me as a child, and to this day it remains one of my favorites. You explore the ancient Greek countryside, fighting monsters and finding mythological relics to improve your character. Sure, it's 100% a Zelda 2 ripoff, but as someone who legitimately loves both this and The Adventure of Link, this one just rings truer for me. Willow is another licensed game that is so much better than it has any right to be, and it's a case study in not being too beholden to your license in order to make a great game. If you're familiar with the film, the adventures of Willow Ufgood are only loosely explored in this game. Instead, you go about the world, collecting different swords, shields, magic spells, and items to make your way to defeat the evil of Queen Bavmorda. The game's difficult, and there's a time investment here to really get through things, but it's a really fun experience and a lovely interpretation of one of my favorite movies from my childhood. The Legend of Zelda has to be on this list, right? I mean, I'll be honest, the game doesn't hold up quite as well as I'd like, so consider this kind of an honorable mention, but there is a solid structure underneath the blemishes that make this a wonderful experience overall. You get to explore the countryside of Hyrule, fight Octoroks and Peahats, and delve deep into dungeons to defeat devilish demons. Everything that lays out in subsequent games in the franchise begins here. Ganon is introduced. The Triforce is introduced. You learn about the Master Sword. You fight classic enemies like Stalfos, Octorok, Moblin, and Lynel. There's the Lost Woods. It's all foundation for what we experience 30 plus years later in Breath of the Wild. My favorite adventure game, though, is Star Tropics. This game blew my mind as a kid. I thought I was getting into a top-down RPG based around my exploration of Sea Island at the start of the game, but as soon as I got into the combat section of the game, it became something completely different, and something completely amazing. There's huge, beautiful character designs and enemy art throughout the game. The music is wonderful, and the game decidedly doesn't take itself too seriously, which I love. There's a lot of humor in the writing and the way the game is designed. And who can forget the fact that you had to dip the letter in water that was attached to the instruction manual to discover the secret code? I still can't believe that this is a game that only released in North America. Puzzle games aren't really my forte, I won't lie. I tend to focus more on games with story and action, but games like Tetris can't be denied their influence. I've honestly probably played days worth of Tetris at this point in my life. There's nothing more simple than this. Make a pile and clear out lines. Anyone can understand it, which is why it's so good. Something this simple shouldn't work, but it does. The game is simple, sure, but it's also insanely difficult, and it's as unforgiving of a bad decision as anything I've ever played. Tetris is perfect. I really wish The Adventures of Lola got the recognition it deserves. HAL's game Adventures of Lola is a brilliant pattern interruption platformer where you play as the aforementioned Lolo, who's on a quest to save Princess Lola. You do this by collecting heart cards on each level, and you move things in the way of your enemies on the screen in order to avoid being killed, or by trapping them in rooms so they can't escape. The game is insanely cute and can be maddeningly difficult, but it's so much fun to play. I love Dr. Mario so much. When I got into collecting games, this was the first complete in-box NES game I purchased from a video game store in Ocala, Florida. I loved clearing out the viruses and dropping the pills on them, and thought the simplicity of using the different colors of the vitamins was brilliant in its execution. The game is astonishingly simple, stack and clear much like Tetris, but therein lies why it is so good. It does one thing incredibly well, and I still have fun playing it to this day. It's really hard to imagine the NES without amazing platformers on it. There's a plethora of options, and in many cases they veer into other genres like action or adventure. But games like Ducktales, I just love. It's honestly hard to imagine a game that came out more out of left field than this one. We'll get to one though. Sure, Capcom had a pedigree of platforming greatness, as you will see on this list, but something based on a Disney afternoon show was kind of surprising to see at this level of quality. And of course, this game laid the groundwork for games like Rescue Rangers, Darkwing Duck, Aladdin, and Lion King. And we're all the better for it. Hey look, it's another wonderful platformer from Capcom and another game based on an existing property. although this one I would wager was not as well known as Ducktales was. It's actually based on a series of comics from the early 1900s. And if you thought Ducktales was out of the blue, the one based on an obscure comic from 1905 was even more out of left field. This game follows Nemo into Dreamland, where he jaunts about the landscape, tossing candy at friendly animals in order to use their abilities to explore. The game is charming, fun, and beautiful, and it honestly doesn't get the recognition it deserves frequently. Much like The Legend of Zelda, Super Mario Bros. 3 is a game that did so much to move the industry forward, it has to be on this list, which is why there's 4 in the platformer section. Everything in the industry changed with the release of Mario 3. Games got bigger, more ambitious, and started utilizing more and different animation techniques. Music got more boisterous, power-ups became more abundant, and everything we love about the current Mario games started here. Branching paths, hidden locations, and fun minigames. It's a touchstone game where everything Nintendo did from this point on was just more. Its fingerprints are on so many games, from Mario Odyssey, which is obvious, to games like Yooka-Laylee and Ratchet & Clank. Without Mario 3, none of those games would be the games they are today. Even with Mario 3, though, my favorite is Mega Man 2. This is the game I've replayed more than any other. I play through it at least twice a year, and I've done so since I first got the game. I never played the original Mega Man title at the time, so jumping into this world could have been a barrier. But everything was laid out from jump for me to know what to do. I could follow a logical path to collect weapons and utilities from the Robot Masters, or I could do what I wanted to and try my hand at making my own way through. Stage designs are massive and frequently mind-blowing, and the music is perfect in literally every way. I often make a joke that I've had the Airman music in my head for 35 years, but really I don't mind in the slightest. It's just wonderful. Well, there you have it. That's a little bit more about me. I hope that doesn't discourage you from sticking around. I hope you continue to be a subscriber and enjoy our videos. I want to know, though, down below, what is your favorite genre on the NES and what are your top 3 games for it? I would love to hear from you and let you know what that is. And if you guys enjoy this video, let me know, because I would like to do more of these going forward for different platforms. I really want to do one for the Genesis and for the SNES. If you enjoyed the video, please do consider liking it, share it with your friends, and if you haven't done so already, subscribe and ring the notification bell so you can stay up to date with everything we've got going on. We're doing 2 videos a week. Until next time, guys, I appreciate you being here. I have been Jay. Play more games, take care, and stay square. We'll talk to you soon.